compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting is advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. We've added a section on our agenda that I'll continue to read. There are two open public comment sections on the agenda. The first, which follows the superintendent report, means only for questions or statements pertaining to items on this agenda. Should you have any other questions and statements, these must wait until the to the second and final open public session at the end of the meeting. These sessions are for the sole purpose of the community to express their comments in a public forum, and the superintendent and or board is under no obligation to respond during the meeting. Roll call, please.
Dr. Cerciello?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mrs. Fiore?
Here.
Mrs. Flores?
Here.
Mrs. Pogorski? Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Zerlin? Mrs. Sample?
Here.
Mrs. Simon?
Here. Can we stand for the flag salute?
Allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the nation against all liberty and justice. We have the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to our December Board of Education meeting. Tonight, I'd like to start my superintendent's report with a recognition of our Chief of Police. This evening, we honored the service of retiring Chief of Police Joe Greco. Joe has spent most of his career on the police force here in Reddington and has served as chief since 2017. In my time here in Reddington, Joe has been a consistent support for the safety and security of our school buildings. When talking with Joe, it was always clear that he felt that it was the duty of the local police force to protect schools as a top priority. In his time as chief, our district has worked with him to revise visitor protocols to ensure maximum safety, build double entry vestibules, recreate safety and security plans, apply for safety grants, and we added an additional part-time officer for our school patrols. Our district has forged a positive, collaborative relationship with the police force under Joe's leadership. We are grateful for his commitment to our schools, and we thank him for his service. In retirement, I'm sure Joe will go fishing with his brother, while also spending time with his family. And Joe and his son, Joe, are here tonight. So, Joe, we want to thank you so much for all of your service to the Reddington School District. Thank you very much.
They'll be around, so if there's never anything I can do for anybody, please don't hesitate to call. The support I came from, so the support my roots. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you so
Really
much for
appreciate
everything you've done over the years.
Joe, we'll have a certificate of recognition and appreciation for you. Send it to you, or I have your number. I know where to find you.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, Joe, if you'd like, or feel free.
Here we go.
Riveting.
Thanks, Joe.
Good night.
The next portion of my superintendent report involves talking about enrollment and the housing development presentation. So I want to have Ryan and Dan bring up the presentation. I'll see if I can. You guys go into present mode. All right, this presentation, as you can see, has been adapted, developed, revised over the course of the past year or so, since we talked about it last February at the Board of Education meeting. I bring this presentation back here in December as we prepare for one, budget season, which is coming up after the first of the year, So I thought it would be good to review some of the more updated projections that we have. But second, the kindergarten registration is going to be in full force by February once we get into the new year as well. So I thought this would be a nice time for me to bring to the board ahead. Just a review of what we're monitoring in terms of the housing developments and our redistricting plans as well. Because much of this presentation is also a repeat, I won't go through every single slide. Everything is posted online because this is everything I presented to the board last year and parent information sessions last year as well. But if there's anything you want to review specifically, you can always go back. So I'll first just start with some enrollment trends. If you take a look at our student enrollment over the past 10 years or so, if you look at 20 and 21 and then 21, 22, you'll see last year we had a pretty significant dip in enrollment. It's come back up again this year. One of the things that is sort of an unknown when you look at enrollment, particularly over the past 2 years, is the COVID factor. And the COVID factor is important to mention because we know that we had students disenroll last year over the course of the year because of COVID homeschool or enroll in private schools that offered a different educational setting other than hybrid, which we offered. We know a lot of students came back over the course of the year last year, and enrollment is up this year from last year because we are now open full time, full day. But we still have approximately 10 students who have disenrolled since September 2021 to either homeschool or find another placement for their children that we anticipated would have come back this year. So there's still the COVID factor that we're going to continue to monitor. Real quick, our school configuration, our K-3 buildings, the snapshot of enrollment in October had Three Bridges School at 289, White House School at 319. So they're starting to become a little bit disproportionate. And then Hollenbrook School and Reddington Middle School, Hollenbrook School at 300 and Reddington Middle School at 525. And these fluctuate, as you'll see from the enrollment report even tonight. Enrollment fluctuates. We have students move in, students move out all the time. So these are numbers that were taken a snapshot back in October. So the next section of the presentation talks about the housing development projects. I'll briefly just say the Willows at White House Station is complete. And this is where we have our updated projections from because we are now in the second year of the Willows White House Station project being complete, and we're looking at enrollment now in year 2. We initially started with 20 students district-wide. Now we're at 28, and I'll show you that slide in a moment. The Ridge at Reddington, this is on Route 22. This is 64 affordable units, 25%, and 190 market rate units. This is the largest of the 4 developments that's going in. This is currently under construction. There are buildings currently being built. Roofs are on. There is brick and mortar that is on Route 22, and we anticipate completion this spring, early fall. So this is what I'm going to talk about tonight that'll impact enrollment as early as next year. Granico Interstate Ironworks, again on Mullen Road off of 22. This is 25% affordable, 75% market rate, estimated completion a little bit in the distant future. And in the farther distant future, the Diaz property down on Route 202. Three Bridges. So I'm going to skip ahead a few. So here's the enrollment impact. Last year and over the course of time, we've talked a lot in committee too about the Rutgers formula. This is the basis for us projecting our enrollment. So here's how we look at the steps. So anything in blue that you'll see on the presentation, this is updated since the last time we talked. So if you see anything that's blue, this just means that there are updated numbers. So the steps have stayed the same when it comes to analyzing the enrollment impact. We have to establish the number of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes in each development. We have to establish if it's market rate or if it's affordable. We apply the Rutgers formula, and remember the Rutgers formula gives us an estimate of how many students K through 12 will be coming into the district. We're a K-8 district, so we have to kind of use a ratio in order to predict where students are going to be moving K through 8. So the Willows is what we use as our baseline, right? We're now in year 2 of the Willows. So we're using the Willows as, asking the question, can we use this property as a way to predict what the future might look like for the Reddington Township School District? So the Rutgers formula estimated 48 students enrolling grades K through 12 from the Willows.
This year, now in year 2, we have 28 students that are enrolled at the Willows. So this is up 8 students from last year when it was 20 students, which is now approximately 58% of the Rutgers formula. So the Rutgers formula is an overestimate of how many students we're going to get. We use a ratio of about 58% of what the Rutgers formula is projecting in order to figure out how many students are coming in to our district K through 8. And then on the next slide, you'll see the enrollment impact, the projections. So the Willows property is on the top. So we now have year 2 data, 28 students total district-wide. Interestingly, and I don't know if I have any mathematical explanation for this, we seem to run the trend that White House School takes approximately half of the total enrolled students in the district. So 14 students are at White House School. We use these baselines to actually predict how many students we think are going to be moving in the future. So if you just take a look, I like this chart because it shows you the Rutgers prediction, everything in 3 columns. The Rutgers prediction, which we know gives us K through 12 numbers. The actual, so we have actually 28 students from the Willows in year 2. The rest are just projections, right? So we take 58% of this column, we get this column. Then we take half of this column to get this column, which gives us our K through 12. So we can see here that from the Diaz property, which is in the distant future, we have about 31 students that are going to come here. Approximately 16 will be at Three Bridges. Right now, we're focused right here at the middle of the chart. The Ridge, affordable housing and market rate housing, which estimates 24 students for affordable, 97 students for market rate, which gives us 12 students and 49 students respectively at White House School. At the end of all of this construction, we anticipate at the bottom 103 predicted at White House School, new students at White House School, 16 at Three Bridges, which is 235 total district-wide, which is the Willows not included. So we're anticipating some increased enrollment numbers based off of these housing developments. Questions? Good so far? Right. I'm going to go through a couple more. So this talks about our redistricting plan, sort of the disproportionality of where the developments are being built around the district. And then our options considered, and then our preferred option, which is this gradual movement of kindergarten students starting with next academic year in a redistricted area to go to Three Bridges as opposed to White House School. So it's a 5-year phased-in approach, starting with last school year was an option where parents could choose from the redistricted area, either White House or Three Bridges. Next year, all kindergarten students on certain streets in the redistricting area will attend Three Bridges as opposed to White House School, and will continue that pattern for the next 4 years. There's some specific street names that are going to be impacted. We have them listed here. We've contacted everybody living on those streets through a letter last year. I want to say, Jason, last May or April or May, that letter went out, which gave us some data. And then this is difficult to see, but it's this highlights these streets on the map so that you can generally see that the redistrict line currently is this yellow line right here, and it changes to be this yellow line and then incorporates this green line, shifting more students from this area in the township down to the Three Bridges School, starting with kindergarten. So what did it look like over the course of this past year? We had parents who had children entering kindergarten this fall had the choice to send their child to White House or Three Bridges if they lived in that redistricted area. So the building principals and building secretaries knew that if they got any registration packets from any of those street names, that they had to call them and offer them a choice. You know, you're in a redistricted area. If you have a 3-year-old, you know, you might want to consider sending your new kindergarten to Three Bridges, because in a couple of years, your 3-year-old is going to be redistricted down to Three Bridges, and we gave parents the option. It gave us some numbers. We had 4 students in kindergarten who opted to go to Three Bridges, and then we had 6 students to attend White House School. But this would have been 10 students total that would have been impacted, right? So we had about half and half choice, but we know that there's about 10 students total that lived in that area that attended kindergarten this year. So it tells us that over the course of the next 5 years, we're expecting to shift about 10 students annually who would have gone to White House to actually go to Three Bridges School. So this is a two side-by-side comparison chart. What we have on one side is taking, right now in kindergarten, the current enrollment is 61 students in kindergarten, whereas White House would be 69. What we did is we took the additional students and moved them over. Let's say if we had the 10 students go over to Three Bridges this year, what would it look like? So it shifts the numbers where we have 67 at Three Bridges, but 63 at White House School. Adding to a total of 268 and 252. So it does shift successfully over the next 5 years, children from White House to Three Bridges, but then we add in the developments, and then we see with the developments added in that we have about 284 students we're looking at the end of 5 years at Three Bridges and 355 at White House. So even with shifting 10 students a year over, approximately 10 students a year over, we still see that there's a little bit of a disproportionality between Three Bridges and White House. But what's not included here is Three Bridges houses about 20 preschool students. So if you add another 20 students into preschool, we start to see the numbers balancing out a little bit more, where we have a disproportionality of about 50 students or so. It brings us Three Bridges to about 305 and White House to 355. So it does balance the numbers a little bit. Now, these are all projections too. We're not exactly sure if it's going to be 10 students, 15 students, 20 students a year, but based off of this year's 10 students, we see that we're looking at about 10 kindergartners a year shifting from White House to Three Bridges. The other thing we also know is we sent a letter out to all families that lived on these streets over the course of the spring last year, and we asked them to submit a self-reported data back if they had a child ages birth through 5 to see approximately how many students do we know living in this area right now are going to be impacted by our redistricting plans. So our prediction of this year, 10 students being impacted, actually looks like it may be true for next year, because in the 22-23 school year, we got a survey back and we know parents reported that there are 10 students that are enrolling in kindergarten in that redistricted area on those specific streets next year. So it could actually be a true number. If we go a little further in the future, it's harder and harder to predict, right? 4 students, 5 students, then 2 students. A lot can change with housing developments and the housing market over the course of the next couple of years. But we know that there are about 10 students that received a letter that reported to us that they have 5-year-olds that are anticipated to come to kindergarten next year in the redistricted area. What we don't know the number of move-ins each year. So we know that houses are for sale. We know that young families are buying houses. Folks are selling houses. We're not sure how many new move-ins we're going to get annually. We don't have birth rates, so we don't know exactly how many children are being born in Reddington Township that live here. The housing market may shift. It has shifted recently due to COVID. It may shift again. We also don't know other enrollment factors, such as some of the COVID factors, right? Parents may be holding their children back for a year to enter kindergarten the following year. We don't know special education numbers of our students. We also don't know how many of the students in the redistricted area or in the new housing developments may be eligible for special education, self-contained programs, which are housed at specific buildings in our district. So there are a couple of things that we still don't know, but all in all, this is kind of how we're tracking enrollment and redistricting over the next couple of years. This is just some historic White House and Three Bridges enrollment from 2012. So you'll see that generally over the past 10 years or so, White House and Three Bridges enrollment is pretty close. Actually, the district has been really well divided by that district line over the past 10 years. And you can see in the year 2021, we start to get a little bit disparate between the two buildings, whereas Three Bridges is smaller and White House is increasing in enrollment. And then I always mention, grades 4 through 8, and I give you historic enrollment for Hollenbrook and RMS, suggesting that even if the other 100 some odd students that are going to be coming to our district do enroll, we do have some room to grow in our facilities at Hollenbrook and RMS. That's not to say that our current staff have the capacity to have the increase in enrollment, but at least we know we have the room and we don't need to really shift redistricting between Hollenbrook and RMS as well. So we do have room to grow. So that was a quick update. I know it was really quick. Are there any questions from the board regarding redistricting?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I do have one question. It's, for White House School, what is the kind of capacity or what's kind of the number?
Yeah, we're also gonna ask the same question for both schools. What would, have an idea of the maximum capacity?
I can tell you that going back through enrollment reports based off of the square footage of White House School, that our capacity is in the 400 students. We had, I want to say, I looked at an enrollment report from many years ago. I want to say 2008, 2009, and I want to say there was over 400 students at White House School. So we still have some room up there. I mean, unless these developments are going to bring like 500, 600, 700 students, which I don't see happening, I think we've got room without altering or building facilities.
Three Bridges as well, but you haven't.
Three Bridges was large back then as well. I want to say they were either slightly over 400 or right at 400 as well, and that included preschool back then as well. Let's say they've always had our preschool program, and I don't know if it was divided between the two buildings.
There was a restructuring between Hollenbrook School and the other schools that pushed down grade 3.
Yes,
Pushed
from
up.
Hollenbrook.
Yeah.
Too.
That's why the enrollment used to be higher at those schools.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. Good question. All right. So Simon, I'll keep going.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to keep going. This is not on the agenda, but I thought it would be appropriate to update the Board of Education in regards to quarantining of students, because we have moved to orange in the activity report. So I just wanted to give a brief update. I think I highlighted some of this in my Friday bulletin for you. Currently, we have approximately 77 students quarantined due to close contact district-wide. The majority of the students are close contacts here in school. As more quarantine occurs, I'll admit that the frustration mounts, not only with the school administration, the teachers, and understandably so, the parents. So we're doing a few things to support students as much as we possibly can. In some cases, we've begun synchronous instruction. So this is the cameras on for live instruction for students that are quarantined. And remember, we always have virtual homework help if students need it. So there are teachers available for virtual homework help in the evenings if needed. I've written to the governor's office about the challenges with the 14-day quarantine. I wrote last week, and then I wrote again today, and I'll update you as well. I did receive a response, which was really nice. The person that I communicate with in the governor's office has been very responsive. I explained the challenges, and that these challenges are really costly to student achievement, right? We want kids in school as much as possible. That's been our guiding principle since the beginning. And then finally, the Hunterdon County superintendents, we all met on Friday to determine a course of action, perhaps that we may want to take as a group, in advocating that the governor of the Department of Health look at some of these quarantine guidelines. So right now, we're preparing a letter to be sent to the governor regarding quarantine, advocating for some kind of revision to the quarantine guidelines like they were in yellow, right? Some kind of test and stay option, test back after 7 days, come back to school as quickly as possible, especially if there are no signs or symptoms of COVID. And then today, I wrote to my contact at the governor's office again, and either it's supposed to be today, but maybe tomorrow, there are supposed to be revised guidelines that are coming out from the Department of Health that should hopefully loosen this 14-day quarantine restriction for schools. And give us some authority to bring students back sooner. I don't know exactly what they're going to be. I'm hoping that it's maybe back to 10 days, test out after 7, something like that. Because if at all possible, we'd like students to get back sooner. So I want the board to know that the school administration, the staff, I'm sure, we're all disheartened at the 14-day quarantine and the impact it's having on students, and we want to bring students back to school as quickly as possible. And I'll also mention too that our very hardworking school nurses have been inundated with work with contact tracing. And, they are working overtime, trying to keep students safe and trying to do everything that they can in their power to ensure that the students that are quarantined due to close contact are the students that need to be quarantined. And they're doing their due diligence to make sure that we don't quarantine students that don't need to be. So I asked, families, parents, the board, let's be patient with the nurses. They are doing the best they possibly can. So thank you. Questions about quarantine? Any updates on those updates? And I'll let you know as soon as I know or I hear from the Department of Health. We'll push out revised guidance as we get it.
Dr. Hart, it's Julie. Thanks for reaching out to the governor's office. Just a question on general student attendance, since we're in yet another school year where there's heightened sensitivity to cold symptoms, flu symptoms, things of that nature, and more kids staying home that might have been in school pre-pandemic. What consideration is being given just from a general attendance perspective in regards to that?
We always say, if children are ill, keep them home, right? That's the best rule of thumb. If you're ill, if children are showing signs and symptoms of any illness, COVID or not, best rule of thumb is keep them home. With the building principals, we are always going to be sending out our attendance letters to ensure that we communicate with families in regards to any concerns we have with attendance. But I know that our school counselors and our building principals have been extending themselves to work with families as much as possible in considering why those attendance patterns may be occurring. So we recognize that it's a challenging year, and we will be sending out, attendance letters, but please know that these attendance letters are really driven by our attendance policy, but at the same time, principals are very cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of reasons for absences, particularly because of caution due to illness. Anything else? Quarantine? Okay. Final part of my superintendent's report is to recognize 4 board members for their dedicated service to our district this evening. So we have 4 board members leaving the Board of Education. Julie Flores joined the board in April of 2021 and has served for the past 9 months. She was a member of the Personnel and Policy Committees. In the short time I've gotten to know Julie, her thoroughness, her thoughtfulness, and her expertise in human resources have made her a valued asset. I look forward to continuing to see Julie as a parent of a kindergarten student in the district very much in the future, and I hope that she still stays engaged with the board. Anthony Emmons joined the board in November of 2020. He served as a member of the Personnel, Policy, and Ed Tech committees. He is an educator with advanced degrees in the area of math education, which led to Anthony's insightful comments in our Ed Tech committee meetings. In his year on the board, Anthony has been a supporter and very appreciative of the work we've done with our math data. What's interesting about both Julie and Anthony is their timing in joining the board. There's no question that becoming a board member over the past 2 years has presented some significant challenges. Both of these individuals took on that challenge and served the Reddington community extraordinarily well. I want to thank you both for your time on the Board of Education, and I look forward to talking with you in the future as parents of Reddington students. So thank you very much, Julie and Anthony. Eric Zwerling is next. He joined the board in April of 2010. He served on the board for over 11 years. He was a member of our policy committee and chair of our green committee. During his time in service to this board, Eric has made substantial contributions, most notably in the area of energy efficiency and sustainability. His passion and deep knowledge of environmental sustainability has supported the district in its venture to apply and receive Green Ribbon Awards in all 4 buildings and the Sustainable Jersey recognition in all 4 buildings as well. Our district has developed a robust energy efficiency program and installed solar panels. These contributions will serve the students of Reddington for a lifetime and beyond. Most recently, The Eco Ambassadors of Reddington Middle School honored Eric with the National Green Schools Society's Chapter's Green Difference Award. They recognized him at the chapter level and further nominated him for the National Green Difference Award too. This is evidence of his extraordinary contributions to our green schools effort. Laura Simon joined the board in April 2020, serving over 11 years alongside 2010, serving over 11 years alongside Eric. She has been board president for the past several years, leading the board through some of the most significant issues of our time. Besides her dedicated service as president, she's also served on the personnel, finance, policy, and EdTech committees. She's also chaired the negotiations committee. In fact, Laura, I'll say it was difficult to determine the committees that you've served on since you've been on the board for so long. I may have missed some in there, but just let's assume that you've served on all the committees in some capacity. In her time on the board, she has successfully led countless negotiations sessions, contributed her perspective to multiple committees, and provided a lot of leadership through the past 20 months of the pandemic. She's transitioned the board through an interim superintendent while conducting a search for a long-term superintendent. Her commitment to public service is unwavering, giving so much of her time to this Reddington community. Over the past 3.5 years, I believe that we have developed a great collaborative relationship and truthfully, Laura, a friendship for which I'm grateful. I will truly miss having you as a partner and leadership on this board. I want to thank you for your service. Best wishes to all that are departing the Board of Education this evening, and remember that we are here as your friends and your colleagues and companions if you ever need us. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I'll have certificates for all of you, don't worry. I'll make sure that you get them. So thank you very much. Mrs. Simon, I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
We are now open to the public. They'll be limited to action items on the agenda. Do you have any questions?
Good evening, everyone. Those of you who do not know me, my name is Kevin Meyer. I'm a special education teacher at Reddington Middle School, and I'm currently the president of the Reddington Township Education Association. This September marked my 14th year at Reddington and in public education. Additionally, I have also served in the RTA leadership for the past 6 years. As part of tonight's agenda, you are formally accepting my resignation effective December 31st. Believe me when I say that this decision to move on from Reddington and leave public education for the corporate world was a very difficult decision. Reddington has been a second home to me for my entire adult professional career. I've had the pleasure and honor of working with, first and foremost, some amazing, caring, inquisitive, funny, and at times challenging students. I'm so fortunate to have made irreplaceable and lasting relationships with many Reddington families and community members. The leadership, guidance, and professionalism that I have encountered from our district administration and many of you board members as well has helped me to grow and be challenged in ways that I never thought possible. This district supported my professional growth through coursework and professional development, and for that I am grateful and so appreciative. I know that the students at Reddington Middle School have benefited from that investment that you have made in me as your employee. So thank you. Above all else, my colleagues at Reddington Middle School and those district-wide are some of the most hardworking, intelligent, innovative, dedicated, selfless, giving, and caring individuals I have ever come in contact with in my life. The teachers and staff that you have in your schools are invaluable. They're gold. Value them, praise them, tell them how much they mean to you and this community, and reward them as such. Value, praise, meaning, security, and purpose are what they provide to the children of this community every single day. Thank you for allowing me the honor to address you one last time tonight. I wish you all the best in your continued service on this board, and for those of you who are moving on, and I wish only the best for the Reddington community. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
There was one public comment.
Yeah, comment from Julie. I appreciated the opportunity to serve. Thank you to those who will continue serving.
Are there any other comments regarding items on the agenda? Not hearing any. We'll move into correspondence. And we don't have any correspondence. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Laura Simon, effective December 31st, 2021.
Nobody's moving.
We don't want to do it.
All right.
So moved.
Second,
Brett.
Tom.
Tom.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night, Kevin. Thank you.
Can I get a roll call? Kevin, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you,
I
Laura.
wish you all the best.
You as well.
Dr. Cerciello,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowling,
Yes.
Mrs. Hample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon.
Yes.
Bless
Next, moving on
I
to,
just, Laura, I'd like to really thank you for the opportunity to have served with you for 11 years. You have done remarkable things for this district in 11 years. You've given time, effort, what you have contributed to this community. The community has been very lucky to have somebody be so remarkably dedicated. The hundreds, if not thousands of hours that you've given to this community, done so ably, so unbelievably competently. It's just the things that that you have achieved, the things that we have achieved. We've done a lot of good in 11 years, and it's been a real pleasure working with you. Really,
it has
Thank
been
you.
wonderful getting to meet you and work with you.
it really has.
We've come a long way.
It's been quite an adventure, and I wish you nothing but limitless success in all future endeavors.
It's been a pleasure. I think we're all better having you. I can't imagine, over the years, thinking who has had the most impact on this board, and that would be you. The amount of change that you've done over the years with solar and all the other energy initiatives that you have spearheaded is unbelievable. And the educational component to that as well. It's not just money. It's about the educating the kids, and that's why we're all here. At least that's, the primary goal. The district will definitely miss you.
I appreciate that. I mean, I know that it's not surprising anybody that I have a little parting comments here prepared. And as always, I have no idea when to say them at the appropriate time, but, at some point there was a give those comments.
You can come in.
But, being like my normal preachy self and having a last shot at it, sustainability is certainly not a new idea. We're just rediscovering it. And now understand the wisdom that's ingrained in the teachings of the first inhabitants of America. The great law of the Iroquois requires that in every deliberation we must consider the impacts on the seventh generation. Chief Lyons of the Onondaga Nation asked, "Where are you taking them? What will they have?" Many of our children in the school right now will be on this earth in the year 2100. What will they have? What will be here for them then? 11 years ago, a group of board members answered this call. We set out not just to change the physical operations of the district, we wanted to change its very culture, including our core mission, which is educating and preparing Reddington's children for a bright future. Now, the last two of us are leaving. The children in our schools will not only inherit the earth, but also be its caretakers and problem solvers. We have always provided them with an excellent education, and now we are infusing them with an ethos to think outside of themselves for a greater good. What they will achieve is unimaginable to us now. But know that what we have done here has laid the foundation. And not only have we done this for our children, Reddington's sustainability efforts are now a model for school districts across the country. We have demonstrated how to successfully green older existing buildings, and others are paying attention. In a yet unpublished book, the author writes, when contacting a school about their green initiatives, it's unexpected to have the superintendent of the school be the one who offers to meet with you. Not only did the Reddington superintendent get interviewed for this book, but one of the school board members was also happy to speak extensively about the district's sustainability projects. The board member is the chair of the Green Committee. The superintendent also supported aligning school curriculum with education for sustainability standards, the district's energy efficiency coordinator, facility manager, and business administrator all coordinate to focus on energy efficiency. Now, that's how great leadership can promote sustainable initiatives. The board may set the goals, but it's up to the administration and the staff to implement them. And they've done so in brilliant fashion, as evidenced by all the awards this district has accumulated. Once a group of creative, caring, and motivated people are unleashed with direction, they can achieve results beyond imagination. I pray that future boards, administrations, and staffs continue this mission. I will leave you with the words of Chief Seattle from 1854. Will you teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother, what befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth? This we know, the earth does not belong to man, man belongs to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life, he is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. One thing we know, our God is your God. The earth is precious to him, and to harm the earth is to heap contempt upon its creator. Thank you for the honor of serving this wonderful community.
That's really beautiful. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Administrative report. Can I get a motion to adopt 1.01 to 1.03, please?
So moved, Carol.
Second, Tom.
All right. Are there any questions on those items? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zrolling,
Yes.
Mrs. Ample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Moving on to the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt 2.01, please?
So moved, Beth.
Thank you.
Second, Karen.
Are there any changes needed to the minutes? Can I get a roll call, please?
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zrolling,
Yes.
Mrs. Ample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Finance and facilities. Can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 to 3.13?
So moved, Beth.
Second.
Second, Tom.
I put Carol. We have a report.
Yes, we do. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on Wednesday, December 8th, and began with a discussion for the 21-22 capital projects. The Hollenbrook Roofing Project had their final inspection on November 24th, and this project is now complete, and everything went well. We also then talked about at Three Bridges School, there's a sewer blockage, and this is a new blockage, which is now inside the building near the nurse's office. The plan is to address this over the winter break. The floor will be dug up in the hallway and replace the decayed piping with PVC. The cost will be approximately $6,500, and this will be completed prior to January 3rd, 2022. We also discussed other maintenance and IT projects, such as we're currently waiting for stair treads for RMS. They're thinking about a walkway for the kindergarten wing at Three Bridges School, and this may be done in the spring. We also talked about window repairs at Three Bridges schools, which are currently delayed due to supply shortage. We then discussed the Emergent and Capital Needs Grant Program, and we have received approximately $33,000 from this grant to be used to keep schools open. Money needs to be spent by June 30th of 2022. So we're still discussing ways to spend these funds based on the existing restrictions. There continues to be challenges of spending the money due to labor shortages and supply issues, and this will be discussed further. We then talked about the proposed capital projects for the 22-23 school year, starting with the Holland roofing project, which this is the final section that will be completed next school year. Provco won the bid for approximately $980,000. The insulation option has been changed. Instead of us purchasing the insulation for $148,000 from a different vendor ahead of time, trying to stay ahead of supply issues, the current vendor has offered to purchase the insulation at their price at a savings of approximately $30,000. And the vendor will assume all responsibility. The attorney has approved this potential change order. We then talked about transportation and the new federal transportation CDL requirements, which will be effective February the 7th. We are close to hiring 3 new bus drivers. We still need approximately 8 drivers, but the lawn signs have helped to recruit new bus drivers. Now, the new CDL requirements do not apply to current bus drivers, and we discussed ways to possibly retain and incentivize current drivers. We also discussed shared service options and an overall update on the driver shortage and training. We then talked about the food service program and that we need to address some issues regarding our food service. Most concerns involve labor shortages. Other issues include more training is needed for current staff. They're not always receiving the amount of food that we ordered. The food is sometimes delivered at night when there's no staff to bring in the building. And there's also inconsistent management of the food service, and that we're also piloting a breakfast program. Therefore, we're adding more work with less help, to name a few issues. Machios is working hard to address all of our concerns. And we have asked for healthy food that is of good quality, such as whole fruit and or local fruits and vegetables. Yogurt and granola bars, for example, may continue to be a preference since they are healthy and they're faster to consume. Other options have interfered with instructional time. There are ongoing meetings and communication have been helpful. Each principal can request age-appropriate options for students in their building, and a thorough investigation was done regarding the complaints. We next talked about the Reddington Township ARP at the committee meeting, which happened on December the 16th. That's the American Rescue Plan, which involved $1.7 million. We discussed suggestions from the committee on how to spend this money. And the ideas include walking or bike paths, broadband, sewer improvements, storm sewer improvements, flashing flood warning signs, summer camp scholarships, mental health services, and transportation vehicles, to name a few. The committee communicated with Dr. Hart and expressed that they appreciated Jason Bohm's participation and input at the meetings. And the committee is open to other suggestions. The next thing we talked about was the payroll software, the electronic timesheets. This would only apply to people who received extra pay. There would be a one-time cost of $4,000 and then monthly support of $185. This appears to be cost-effective, and it would involve training. We can phase this in as well, and there's more discussion to follow. The next item on the agenda was substitute nursing rates, where we have had the same rate for 8 to 10 years. There's the same problem with labor shortages, and we may consider raising the rate from approximately $155 a day to $225 a day to compete with the surrounding towns. We then looked at the finance agenda items and as well as the bills list, and we set our next meeting for Thursday, January 6th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. I have a question on the log, the blockage.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it last time, right across from the nurse where the front office was?
It's a different location now.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a different location, so we cleared that blockage that was,
Is it
And underneath-
connected at all?
it's connected, but it's further up, so if you go into the nurse's office, there's I'm gonna say the clog is kind of right under the nurse's office, like the vestibule outside the nurse's office, outside the main office. The other one was underneath the main office, so it's a little further down.
Okay.
I had a question along the same lines of, did we get a second opinion on this? It just seems like we were just, fixing that and could have been addressed at the same time, what it seems suspect to me, just a, something to think about.
I don't know unless Jason has an idea. Did we get multiple plumber? I know our plumbers were out here a lot.
We did have, when we had the original issue, we did have multiple plumbers here, and they tried snaking in different ways to get to the area. Unfortunately, with the first issue, there was not sufficient cleanouts to view the blockage. So the original blockage was actually due to items being put down the sewer that resulted in a blockage continuing. Such as wipes and things like that. This blockage, so that area was, new pipe was laid, cleanouts outside of the building. This one is actually a buildup of basically stone from the water and the piping being cast iron over the years. A large chunk of had broken off from the pipe that had calcified, and that is now sitting in the middle of the pipe. So basically anything that gets flushed down hits that and causes a blockage. Could they both have been addressed? Very likely, yes. Unfortunately, they couldn't reach that other area before they put out the new clean out valve outside of the office. So as soon as they put that new clean out valve, when the second blockage occurred, they were able to snake back up with the counter and see it. So it's more of the clean out valves were not put in well when the building was originally constructed.
All right.
70-year-old cast iron pipes.
Real quick, Jason, wasn't there a photo that Don had of the video that was taken? And maybe we could just send that to all the board members so they can see exactly what that issue is with these old cast iron pipes that are getting corroded and the problems with it.
And to add to that, the locations were very different, right? They wouldn't have been able to get to the second blockage from the less disruptive area that they got the first blockage.
That's what it sounds like, that the cleanouts weren't available to get as far up as they needed to get to see that this blockage existed.
Right.
And now that we have the better, newer cleanouts, and we cleaned out the first blockage back in October, and now we were able to get back up there.
What about the rest of the other areas in the school? Do we know what percentage is cast iron versus anything else?
So the vast majority is the original cast iron. I'd probably say around half, if not more, of the pipes are under the building itself, which makes accessing it very challenging. It was the committee's recommendation to see if we could replace the vast majority of the pipe. But to do so would actually require digging up the main office, the nurse's office, hallways, and student areas. So, and that's only one part of one pipe system in the building. Unfortunately, I think these things could continue to happen. But we will take steps to review the other pipes to see if we can be proactive and address these things in the summer rather than during the school year moving forward.
Isn't there some piping though under the library is underneath that portion of the building that's the oldest? And my memory could not be correct, but aren't there pipes even, wrapped or insulated right in the library? Are they pipes that are related to this system at all?
So the system that,
Which will be good news, right? If we can get at the library and just fix a pipe that's in the ceiling, right?
so there is a crawl space that is, it's just too tight to get in because there's HVAC pipes in there as well. The piping system that is the clogs that have happened twice, basically, if you've ever been in Three Bridges School, there's a hallway adjacent to the main office. The pipes go from the student bathroom and nurse's bathroom to the main office, and then go under the main office out the front door. And then from the front door, they actually go to where the buses currently drop off students and go underneath the cafeteria to the side street. So there is other pipes throughout the building, but what we have essentially fixed is 1/5 of the pipe of just that section of the building. So more problems could occur.
Are there any questions on the minutes or the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zrolling,
Yes.
Mrs. Sample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Education technology. Can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.05, please?
So move that.
Thank you.
Second, Camille?
Thank you. And we have a report.
Yes. The committee met on December 7th. We were provided an update on Accelerate Learning, which is the after-school program. After-school math grades 2 through 8 are meeting 2 days a week for small group instruction. We have a 30% acceptance rate for that group. In LA, grades 6 through 8, we have 2 groups with 1 teacher, a 40% acceptance rate. The 6th grade attendance is consistent. 7th and 8th grade has not been as consistent. In January, we will begin the virtual tutoring for registered students using Litera program. We had a 70% acceptance rate with this, which was likely higher due to the ability to schedule at the parents' and students' convenience. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. An update on the gifted and talented screener and process revisions. So grades 1 through 8 will now be receiving, or in next year, an in-class performance test where the gifted and talented teacher will conduct a lesson and eligible students can therefore be identified. The NNAT3, the Naglieri Nonverbal Ability Test for grades 2 and 5 will be beginning September 2002 to replace the old test, the OLSAT. Updates on SEL. The CAP plan for 2022 to 23, which is grades 3, 5, and 7. Christine Creeley will be the liaison, and the group will ensure we prevent redundancy of material being presented grade over grade. The Avidium pilot. This is supplemental to our existing mental health unit at RMS. Will begin the week of 12/6. And just to note that the standard mental health unit begins the week of 11/29. Little Avidium, which is K through 5, will be piloted in January and February. Digital Stars, Sustainable Jersey. The vision is complete and will be uploaded to the website. And the committee is working through the 8 action items that are required on the Digital Star application, which goes along with Sustainable Jersey. A pride survey at RMS. So the Prevention Resources of Hunterdon County currently surveys high school students every 2 years, and they would like to expand the survey to 6th through 8th grade students. The survey questions are anonymous and relate to drugs, alcohol, peer use. Information would then be available to our school counselors. And if there is a need, then there are parent, staff, and student programs available. And FYI, there will be a Green Schools book is being written, and Reddington School District will be included in the book. And our next meeting will be January 13th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the minutes or the agenda items? I have a question. The survey, that the information is going to be available to school counselors. Is there any intent to share the results with parents? I know that sounds weird, but I started thinking, especially for middle school, let's say a child was starting to dabble in drugs or alcohol. I just think it might be an eye-opening experience for parents to maybe become aware, where maybe before they were not.
Do you mean individual child or just survey results over?
No, just
Okay.
results, you know, like if there was, okay, well, there's 5% that said, yes, they've tried.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the
Gotcha.
questions are, but,
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
it just might be helpful to parents say, well, I didn't realize that they were, you know, trying things so early.
Yeah. Or that so many percentage of sixth graders have tried things or something like that. Yeah. No, it would be good point.
Just a thought.
No, that's a good thought. And we could even try to get our friends at Prevention Resources to come to the board meeting or even do a parent presentation on the survey. This is what we administered and these are some of the results we found, and here are some areas that we want to partner with you folks, you know?
Right.
Okay.
Question?
Laura, just following up on that, I think it is a good idea. However, in order to give the best chance at honest answers from the students, I think the wording and that they're told about the anonymity of it will have to be very deliberate in terms of, you know, who will get aggregate results and that responses cannot be tied back to them, et cetera, so that we can encourage them to be as honest as possible.
Agreed. Okay. Any other questions? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Dr. Sorciello,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Tom?
Mr. Zwirling,
Yes.
Mrs. Sample,
Yes.
Mr. Simon,
Yes, I hear a car.
Mr. Wallace,
That would be me, yes, sorry.
passes.
Okay, moving into personnel. Can I get a motion to adopt 5.01 to 5.12, please?
So move, Beth.
Thank you.
Second, Carol.
Yeah. And we have a report.
You want to read?
Sure. Do you need it? Look,
I have a copy.
I didn't know.
No, I can zoom in.
Okay, got it.
Thanks for calling me out on that, though. The Personnel Committee met on December 6th. We discussed staffing, staff projections and requests for 2022 and 2023. We discussed out-of-district students and nurse. Bill S4203, which is the proposal to repeal New Jersey residency requirement. We discussed personnel matters, and our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 11th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the minutes or the agenda items? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call?
Dr. Sorciello,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zwirling,
Yes.
Mrs. Sample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon.
Yes.
Passes.
Communication. Can I get a motion to adopt 6.01 to 6.02, please?
So move, Beth.
Thank you.
Second, Camille.
Thank you. And we have a report.
Yes, we do. The Policy Communications Committee met on November 15th. We discussed the Policy Alert 225, which was tabled from last meeting. It's Policy 5751, Sexual Harassment of Students. The U.S. Department of Education recently published a final rule amending the federal Title IX regulations regarding sexual harassment of students by school employees, other students, or third parties. These new federal regulations revise the definition of sexual harassment and include a detailed procedure on how public school districts must respond to allegations of sexual harassment. The final rule defines sexual harassment, requires a school district to designate a Title IX coordinator, outlines notice requirements, and establishes reporting, investigation, hearing, and appeal process requirements. The committee recommended adopting policy and regulation 5751. This is a mandated policy. We discussed the green policies for review. The committee reviewed the current green policies in preparation for the district's Sustainable Jersey for Schools certification applications that are due in the spring. Policy 7423, Green and Healthy Schools Cleaning Policy. We found no changes needed. Policy 7460, Energy Conservation, minor changes needed to bring up to date. Policy 7461, which is the district sustainability policy. Substantial changes, which include language about establishing a position, stipend or standalone, for sustainability initiatives. A green building policy to prioritize green building standards on capital renovation projects. An update to the Safe Routes to School policy, as well as an active transportation section that addresses walking and bicycling safety guidelines. And lastly, SEL language about the 5 core competencies. We also discussed policy 7471, idle-free school zones. No changes or updated. It was updated recently. We discussed regulation 2510, adoption of textbooks. Dr. Hart discussed several minor changes to the adoption of textbooks regulation, which does not need board approval, but was shared with us as informational. The new regulation includes defining the department supervisor's role in chairing and selecting the makeup of the selection committee, which will include no fewer than 3 teaching staff members who represent a range of interests and backgrounds. The current regulation refers to an assistant superintendent position, which currently does not exist. Next, we discussed diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Hart asked the committee for input on the planning and next steps document created by the leadership team. In terms of policy updates needed, the district already has many equity policies established. Perhaps if there's a need for an overarching DEI policy, it could simply refer to all of the current policies. In addition to those listed under the what we currently do now, the district has language around equity and inclusion in many policies, such as pupil rights, EEO, EE anti-discrimination practices, bilingual and ESL education, resource materials, grievance policy, no child left behind, SF, special education, equal access of pupil organizations, and potentially others. Also, feedback was provided to Dr. Hart on the what we currently do sections to also include initiatives around the breakfast program, students with special needs, English language learners, families in need, Chromebooks, internet access for all students, and GT screening. Lastly, we talked about press release tentative topics based on the communications plan. December was highlighted food service and food pantry. January, technology initiatives, kindergarten registration, and February budget and kindergarten registration reminder. Our next meeting was to be determined after the January reorganization meeting.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions on the minutes or the agenda items? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Mr. Emmons,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zerwan,
Yes.
Mrs. Sample,
Yes.
Mrs. Simon.
Yes.
Yes.
Unfinished business. The board meeting dates for 2022 were in the portal. Did you want to bring anything to, oh, the November date was changed?
Yep,
Right.
that's the only thing I want to bring to your attention. November date was changed, and the format of the document was changed slightly just to have the meeting dates and then notes next to it. And that was it. Not for formal approval tonight, but will be once we reorg.
Any unfinished business that anybody needs to bring up? Moving on to new business. The vacant board position interview with appointment process. Do you want to go over the timeline? You want me to?
You printed it out. I printed it on the book. Go ahead. You can do it.
So Dr. Hart put together a timeline for the board to fill the open position past December 31st. So it would be discussed this evening. He is recommending posting the opening December 20th. Website, social media. January 1st, the ad would go into the Reddington News. January 10th, close the posting. Let's see, potentially leave it open for longer if needed. By January 14th, contact the candidates and let them know the interviews will be on January 18th. On the 18th, you would interview the candidates in closed session. That meeting would start at 6 for interviews. And then the 19th, somebody would let the candidate know. And then the other ones, depending on how many. And then on February 8th, to have the candidate sworn in. So that's the tentative schedule. Does anyone have any questions or concerns on that you want to bring up?
Question, Laura, what is the term on, what is, I want to know what your end of your term is.
I guess it would be until November again, right?
Right, so it's a 1 year.
It's when you're
Yeah,
done.
yes.
Okay.
That person, if they won, and then they would have to still, get on the ballot in
Yeah.
June for a 3-year term, January 2023.
Anybody have any concerns about the timeline? No concerns? No concerns? No.
Just remember January 18th concern with the meeting that would start early. So,
So, and it's different than what we've done the past few meetings in that the candidate wouldn't be notified. We would select the candidate and announce it, but they wouldn't be sworn in until the following meeting. Correct?
yes.
As opposed to being sworn in.
Yeah,
That same,
right. So we would have a resolution on the agenda on January 18th for you to make a selection and vote on a candidate. But I think the only difference is because it's not virtual, we wouldn't have them sit and wait for us to deliberate and then come back in and swear them in immediately. You would notify them and then they would come back. And 6 o'clock start is just depending how many applicants we get, right? So we'll have to monitor that and see if we need to start earlier or if we need to modify that at all.
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just say, Carol, having been in that position of being sworn in and going into a meeting immediately, I prefer what's being laid out now.
I think Camille, I called you. I think I called
Yeah.
Camille and was like, hurry up, log back in. You're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had already put on my, my pajama bottoms, and then when we had to stay in the class. Nobody noticed. Yeah. Other than that, it was great.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I would go.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have the Green Committee minutes.
Okay, so I did just file a couple hours ago, sorry about that. So the first thing that was on the agenda was, it was cryptically on the agenda was update from Betsy Freeman, at which she surprisingly, she announced the National Green National Green Schools Students Eco Ambassadors Award that her students had, that they were giving to to missed as well. I mean, I refer to myself in the third person in this, which sounds obnoxious, but it's how I write these things. Which recognizes outstanding energy, environmental, and STEAM education efforts in our schools and communities. They will nominate him for a Green Difference Award. Actually, Dr. Hart's already mentioned this, so I'll skip over this. We welcomed a new member, Christina Albrecht. She's a community member. Don Race then gave an energy update. Mr. Race reviewed energy data and initiatives from 2007 to 2021. The Green Initiative, the Green Committee was formed, conducted an energy audit, hired the energy efficiency coordinator, adopted energy conservation policy, developed energy conservation program, monitored and tracked energy usage, including a baseline data collection. There was the behavioral awareness program, solar generation system was installed, new energy baseline to track energy use savings to include the solar installation. Energy efficiency, energy efficient LED lighting and HVAC units were installed at 3 bridges in White House that were funded with the clean energy grants. Mr. Reed then went on to detail the district's energy consumption in 2 years since the new baseline year, which was 2018 to 2019. Total energy usage has dropped 5 to 6% in both years since the new baseline year, for an avoided cost savings of approximately $105,000 in that period. Though I've spoken, this is not in the minutes, but I've spoken to Don subsequently, calculated another way, it's $230,000. There's a lot of, the data is difficult to interpret. If you go, and suffice it to say, it's either 105 or 230, and I discussed this with him once a month. It's noted that those years also include the windows being opened in the buildings through this period for maximum ventilation, obviously for COVID protocols. So the energy usage will drop further when the windows are closed. Total energy usage has dropped from approximately $1 million a year between 2007 and 2009, those years, to about $400,000 in 2020-2021 year. So Mr. Race calculated that the energy savings since 2007 totaled more than $700,000. But Mr. Zwerling pointed out that that's likely relative to baseline years, not the no energy conservation plan scenario. Had we done nothing since the last 10 years? For instance, if consumption had remained at $1 million per annum, last year the district would have avoided $600,000 alone. Mr. Zwelling also suggested that that these reviews include calculations of CO2 emissions avoided. That would be a useful thing to pursue. Then Sustainable Jersey was discussed. The science curriculum map was discussed by Sarah Pouch. Ms. Pouch discussed the development of the science curriculum map and the standards it meets, consolidates many of the resources in one place for easy access by teachers, including some interactive simulations. The status of the overall Sustainable Jersey applications was discussed. They were working on the applications for schools. The 2021-22 school year grants, there was a discussion by Mr. Bohm and Dr. DeRosa regarding the 3 bridges detention basin. We're waiting on the granting, hearing back from the granting agencies. Dr. DeRosa pointed out that the White House outdoor space sensory garden, there was a lot of work involving plumbing, et cetera, a lot of work involved. Safe routes to school was discussed by Dr. DeRosa. She's seeking collaboration with either the Reddington Police Department or Huntington Go Safety. There are grants that are potentially available. And I thought this was humorous. There was a helmet safety demonstration that involved melons and helmets, which I enjoyed seeing. 3 Bridges Detention Basin, David Livingston, a community member, former president of the board, he discussed some additional grants that they're waiting on, but also detailed the fact that a $1,000 grant from Rotary has been secured. There was discussion by Dr. Hart about the Green Initiatives book by Dr. Klevyak from the University of Cincinnati, which has already been discussed, and that where there were interviews of both Dr. Hart and Mr. Zwerling, and there were some very favorable comments in the book about the district's efforts. Dr. Hart has submitted some photos at the request of the office. Cafeteria updates. There are two new cafeteria managers. Mass Shows is working to accommodate whatever requests they can. They seem to be very accommodating from the reports we've got. There are the menu-focused, better quality, fresher products, the local fresh food procurement through an organization called Zone 7. We're talking about local sourcing, from farms that are extremely local. And there's a further discussion about the trend, about the waste from the meal halls as a pilot project. A community member, Neil Hendrickson, at that point, raised the question of whether the district would seek to become carbon neutral. Messrs. Bohm and Race discussed the new roofing in the district, which could accommodate additional solar installations. Mr. Zwirling noted that the new installations, that when those new installations are undertaken, expansion of the installation at Redington Middle School should be pursued along the front yard. The installation at RMS was restricted in size by the board primarily due to the possibility of community concerns which have not arisen. Now that the benefits are clear and residents are used to the panels, such an expansion should be considered. Mr. Zwirling also suggested that the issue of solar panels at White House might also be revisited. The next meeting date is to be determined.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the minutes? Not hearing any. Okay, we're now open to the public. Anything on or off the agenda? Oh, sorry. Is there any other business we want to bring up? No. Okay, now we're open to the public. Anything on or off the agenda? Are there any comments?
I don't believe so. Can you open the comment window? Nope. Thank you.
Okay. I guess that's motion to adjourn.
So move back.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Cerciala,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yeah.
Flores,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Zwirling,
Yes.
Mrs. Hample,
Yes.
Mrs. Summey.
My last yes. Yes.